So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And for whatever reason, I just feel like talking about a guy who got swallowed by a whale recently. I think this was in the US. No, this is not really what I'm going to talk about. Um, well, it's by by the way. I mean, the title probably says it all by now. But yeah, we all know of the story of Jonah and the whale. And, based on this guy, we didn't really need the guy to get swallowed to know that clearly this is fiction. The whole thing where Jonah gets swallowed by the whale and he prays to God and he asks God, to get out of this whale. Obviously, that is not true at all. And I mean, in the same way that, you know, Elijah ascended into heaven, or that Jesus ascended into heaven, or that Mary ascended into heaven. None of these things make sense based on what we know now. There's nothing up there. Um, and as for down there, is just the next side of the world. So, yeah, that is clearly not accurate. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent that I didn't plan on going on, but I remember I went on a retreat with my mom and a priest and a bunch of people. And the priest, he was a young priest and he was a very fervent guy. And he was like, his point of view was that evolution couldn't be correct because that would mean that the Garden of Eden um, didn't exist. And if it didn't exist, it would mean that there wasn't any original sin. And if there wasn't any original sin, then there would not be a need for Jesus. So clearly evolution was not true. But, it was a number of years ago, maybe it was 10 years ago. But obviously, you ask anybody who knows anything more than just the Bible, and it's worse than Eden not existing. It's the fact that there are trillions of galaxies, and we are just in one of them. And up does not go to heaven, and there definitely was not a Garden of Eden, and on and on and on. Anyway, I don't know whatever happened to that priest, but yeah, you just you can't learn too much about reality, otherwise religion just falls apart. Anyway, getting back to this guy who got swallowed by a whale. I passed this on to some friends of mine because I was like, wow, that's crazy. And I sent them messages on Messenger, Facebook Messenger. And one of my friends remarks to me, he's like, apparently, these whales can't swallow a guy because their esophagus is only big enough to swallow like a watermelon. So clearly we're a lot bigger than a watermelon, and I just got to thinking about all of this stuff. I mean, if the Garden of Eden is fiction, which it must be, and just everything. I don't know why I'm walking through all of this stuff. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in any of it. But yeah, it is what it is, and Jonah is not true. The Garden of Eden's not true across the board. The whole thing isn't true. But yeah. Anyway, sometimes I have these other arguments with my mom about the fact my mom will say something like, yeah, God gave man the knowledge to do this and that and the other. I'm like, but God said not to eat from the tree of good and evil, so he didn't want us to know anything. And beyond that, if you want to look to the Greeks really punished Prometheus for giving people fire. And I guess fire would be the representation of knowledge and the ability to smelt metal and cook and do all sorts of things that we would not have been able to do without fire. Clearly, the gods of the Greeks did not want us to have knowledge and information either. So it's kind of like across the board, nobody, you know, well, between the Greeks and the Christians, I guess it's a little bit too much to just say nobody wanted us to know anything or have information. But anyway, that's just what I was thinking. And I guess I'll keep this short. But to the last God related thing, I was just thinking that, hey, there is that story of Solomon and how he said, well, cut the kid in half and give each woman a half. And then the woman who said, okay, okay, give it to the other woman as long as it's alive. I don't want it. And then he's like, hey, this must be your baby. Well, I was listening to Michael Lewis, and he has this whole podcast about the referees called Against the Rules. And he mentioned it. I was like, wow, that's a coincidence. And he was like, that whole thing only works if the woman whose baby it isn't says, yeah, go ahead and cut it, and reveals herself so blatantly. I mean, she must know that that's going to be obvious. Um, but anyway, the story is in there anyway. But aside from that, I was thinking that, hey, um, what if that was the mother? What if she was just a crazy person? And there's just this other woman who is misguided but loves kids. And there's this other woman who is just, crazy. She could just said, yeah, go ahead. Who cares? I didn't want to get pregnant anyway. It seems very unlikely. But as I don't mean to suggest that somebody who has depression, like postpartum depression, that this is what they would be like. But how do we know what they would be like? I'm sure that depression affects lots of people differently, and different psychological or mental problems would manifest in different ways. It's just a possibility that this could have been the mother. But I suppose the most deserving person would be the person who wants the child to live. And I think that that is probably um, more important than really who the mother was, genuinely. So, yeah, I just wanted to put that into words and to just say that. I had some other thoughts, but you know what? I will put them into another video or another audio. I don't know why I'm talking about um, the reality of religions, but yeah, these things were just bubbling around in my head. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you did, have a good one. Peace.